The most important meal of the day, second breakfast.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another Second Breakfast podcast. I'm Andy Roth alongside Phil Duvall. Say hi, Phil.
Hi, Andy and America.
Indeed. And it is Wednesday. It's Wednesday
Yes.
here in Second Breakfast Nation, also known as America. And on Wednesdays, we indulge in a trifle that we like to call Project Melway. Brought to you by
Gibsonian Institute.
the Gibsonian Institute.
I take issue immediately because you call it a trifle when we are putting ourselves through one of the more harrowing experiences known to man.
Indeed.
That experience is to watch every single Mel Gibson movie in chronological order.
Indeed.
People, do you understand what we do for love of the game? And that movie's not in the list.
No.
Every single Mel Gibson movie in chronological order. We're really far through the loop right now.
Let me say this. Less of a trifle, more of a death march. Today is
Oh my God.
Today is Project Melway, episode 24.
Say more.
And we have months to go.
Oh, I
we
thought you were going
have-
to say like,
We have 17 weeks to go.
oh, we're way over the halfway point then.
I mean, yeah.
No, we are. We're way past that. Andy, that's what I was about to look up. I was going to see how many movies we have altogether. So we've done 24 and there's 17 more.
Indeed.
So there's 41
This might be this is 24.
out of 41?
It might be out of 40.
Okay, so either way.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, people. I'm not going to call it I'm not going to call it the home stretch or anything. But I mean,
Right. Yeah, it's but it is a lot of fun. I have gained a new appreciation for Mel Gibson, the actor.
yeah.
Thus far, I have gained no extra appreciation for Mel Gibson, the director. But that's okay.
You know what I'm waiting for.
I know, and I've never seen that, so I'm excited.
Okay.
But today we are talking about Mel Gibson. Even when his movies are bad, usually, once he became a big star,
Right, okay.
even when his movies are bad, they are extremely watchable.
Oh, yeah.
The director of today's film,
Yes.
Ron Howard, also makes...
Yes.
I mean, he usually makes very good movies.
Yes.
But even when he doesn't, they are almost always watchable. And so it is no surprise...
The way you're talking about this, it seems as if you don't think Ransom. The movie's Ransom, by the way, people.
Today's movie, Ransom, is I think it's an extremely good movie.
Oh,
But
okay,
even
okay.
if you don't-
You were prefacing it in a way that made me think maybe you didn't think it was a good movie.
Well, you know what? If you had waited literally like 5 more seconds, you would have found out. So
You were taking so long to describe. You hadn't even said the name of the movie yet, for
I
God's
was
sake.
literally 3 seconds away from saying the name of the movie.
I believe you. I'm sorry.
I don't
I'm
think
sorry.
you do.
I'm
I don't
impatient.
think you do.
You don't think I do what?
Believe me. This is why we can't have nice things, Phil. This is why. Okay. The movie is Ransom, directed by Ron Howard, starring our boy MG, Gary Sinise as the bad guy, Lili Taylor as another one of the bad guys, Liev Schreiber as another one of the bad guys, Donnie Wahlberg as
Can I say
another one
something
of the
about
bad
that?
guy. Yes.
I was watching an interview with Naomi Watts, who is partnered with Mr. Schreiber in
Indeed.
some form or fashion. I'm not sure if it's by the power of the church, but at any rate, she is joined to him through at least childbirth, having a child together,
Indeed.
and cohabitation. And she was calling him Liev. So apparently his name isn't Liev, it's Liev.
I don't know how to live in that world.
Okay, you can keep saying Liev. It's fine. I just
Sure.
wanted to let you know because I was just like, that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I mean that's kind of a murderer's row of no pun intended of bad guys.
Yeah.
And
Lili Taylor, Liev Schreiber,
Donnie Wahlberg,
Gary
Sinise.
Spoiler, Gary Sinise.
Yeah,
It's a spoiler to say he's a bad guy because you don't find that out, but you find that out fairly early on.
you do.
And a guy who looked strangely like our friend Jeremy Goldstein in a number of scenes.
He was on.
He's on Sex and the City for a
Yes,
while. He's famous, but
Evan Chandler, is that his name?
Yeah, but he gets a little doughy later on in life. No offense to him, he's just living a good life. But in this movie, he's very, very slim, slender, and he's got a little bit of facial hair, and he looks just like our friend Jeremy. And it's like weird how much he looks like him.
Evan Handler. Evan
Yes.
Chandler is someone else
Yes.
because it's not him.
And
Yes.
Evan Handler is different than Chelsea Handler. Very different people.
Yeah, that's true. I hate you.
Here to
So,
help.
and on the good side, on the side of the light, we have Mel Gibson. We have his wife, played by Rene Russo, who is awesome, and the lead FBI agent, played by Delroy Lindo, who is awesome.
Delroy Lindo is a guy that I would like to see in more movies.
Me too.
I'm not sure why America. I feel like he falls into a category of black actor that I think like studio, like movie making types, like just he's like lumped in with 3 or 4 other guys.
You know what? Maybe he doesn't have more of a career because Samuel L. Jackson says no to nothing.
And that's my point. That's my point.
Yeah.
Like he falls into that category, and it's unfair because Delroy Lindo is just very gifted.
Yes.
A really, really good actor. I mean, he plays bad so well, and in this movie he just plays so good.
Yes.
But in both his bads and his goods, you feel like when you're watching him, there's so much going on behind his eyes.
Right.
Like it's not. His character in this movie did not have to be memorable.
No.
Just didn't have to be memorable.
Did not have to be complex.
At
Could
all.
have literally been two-dimensional, and it really actually wouldn't have hurt the movie.
Nah.
Even though it's a fairly sizable part. That particular part.
But it just felt.
But
I'm with you.
Because he makes it complex, because
it's just who he is.
He's great.
Going back to my Mamet dogma. He talks about people try to make characters, and Mamet's whole point is just be a person of character and say your line as honestly as possible, and it will show through. Like it will come through.
Yeah.
He uses the term funny voices. Like you don't need to have a funny voice.
Right.
Just be you as honestly as you can be, play the character as honestly as possible, and character is what people will see.
Yeah.
And I think Delroy Lindo, who is in one of his movies, who's in Heist, I think Delroy Lindo is a perfect example of that, of a guy who's just got character oozing from his pores. And so when he acts, he didn't have to do a funny voice. He doesn't really, like if you said, what did Delroy Lindo do that was so amazing in this movie? I had no idea we were going to talk about Delroy Lindo today, by the way. That was not on the agenda.
Well,
like in my head.
It should always be on the agenda, but yes, agreed.
But if you said, what does Delroy Lindo do in Ransom that's so amazing? Honestly, nothing.
Yeah.
Except he's just that, like he's good. Like,
Yes, agreed. Totally.
So
agreed.
do you want to do a little plot synopsis, or do you want me to do it?
You go ahead. Go for it.
Mel Gibson, the MG, plays sort of like a Richard Branson, like a very wealthy and sort of famous airline owner who's he's famous and super rich. So it reminds us of Richard Branson, who created Virgin Atlantic and Virgin Airways, among other things, and flies to space with the Russians and all sorts of other stuff. But he and his wife plays something I haven't figured out. They try to make Rene Russo's character mean something, but mainly she's just wife of rich guy.
That's true.
They live in New York City. Their son gets kidnapped.
Yes.
That's the major thing that you need to know. It's a kidnapping movie, hence the title Ransom. What happens is they ask for a certain amount of money. You come to find out that he is a airline owner with a shady past.
Mm-hmm.
I'll leave that at that for there, like or questionable past. What happens in the course of this movie, and this is a minor spoiler, but it's given up in the trailers. It's given up in a way this is the way the movie was sold. Actually, should I tell people?
Yes, it was absolutely the way it was sold. Yeah.
I know, but I mean, one of the things that was annoying to me was that it was sold this way. I remember seeing it with my friend Wes, and he was like, "They shouldn't have told us this happens in the movie."
Okay.
Do you want me to do it? I'll do it. It's just, what do you think?
I think it's safe, guys.
Okay.
Guys, we're about to go into some spoilers.
Okay.
On a deeper level than Gary Sinise is a bad guy, and so pause us now. Go watch Ransom and then come back if you care.
If you care. But it's not that. So basically, what happens is at some point, Mel Gibson's character MG decides that the kidnappers aren't planning on giving him his son back, and so he goes on national television and says, "The $2 million you asked for, I'm going to give it to whoever finds you." And we find out that Gary Sinise's character, early on, we found out that Gary Sinise's character is who is a cop. We find out he's also one of the kidnappers.
Right.
And the rest is just a boilerplate. I mean, it's boilerplate. It's okay. How do we get the kid back? What is that? I mean, in fact, that's why I sort of feel like that part was a big spoiler because, it was really annoying that they sold the movie based on that because it is the big sort of turn of the movie.
Yes.
And true. You know, and so it's. We did a podcast yesterday about knowing things going in, and I wish I hadn't known that going in.
I agree with that. I agree with that.
But it's a very cool development in the movie. Yes. Very cool development of the plot.
Yes. So let's start talking about Mel, our boy MG. Okay. He's great. He is this movie, his performance in this movie.
One of his best.
Yes. For a character that didn't, much like Delroy Lindo's, it didn't need to be. You know what I mean? It reminded me of George Clooney in some of his roles where he's just like, just so you know, this is so easy for me. You know what I mean? Like,
which is almost all of them at this point.
That's true.
I know what you mean.
That's true. But I was specifically thinking of From Dusk Till Dawn because it was his first main one after he start the transition from ER to movie star, and it was just like he just so self-assured, and I mean.
Yeah, it was funny because he made I think it was called Peacemaker or something like that, and it was awful. And then he made this, I think. Or it might have made this even first. But it was one of those things where early on where people were like, can George Clooney carry a movie? And he did this, and you're totally right. It was sort of like, why are you even asking?
Indeed.
Yeah.
But we've spoken at length, not just on Project Melway, but on other features that we have at Second Breakfast, about how Mel Gibson is maybe the best male crier in Hollywood, and I think in this movie
is proof.
They retired the crown. The belt is not up for debate anymore.
If there was a basketball team called Male Criers, Mel Gibson's number would be retired,
hanging from the rafters, no question.
Yes, it would be hanging from the rafters, no question about it. Yeah. I want to. You pointed something out just now, Andy, that actually is really helpful to me.
Fantastic.
Because when I watched the movie, I was taken by two things specifically, but it wasn't. You just tied it together for me. Okay. Rene Russo is fantastic in this movie, but her character itself is almost. There's nothing about her to know. Right.
That's true.
That being said, I loved her in this movie.
Yeah.
But then when you just said what you said about Mel Gibson, and then we had the conversation at the beginning about Delroy Lindo, I realized, wait a minute. No one's character in this movie is actually spectacularly written, frankly.
Right.
What every single character does with it is what every single actor does with it. And so for that, also, this is where huge amounts of credit goes to Ron Howard.
Yes.
He cast and directed people in such a way that they took basically a movie that's all about the plot and not at all about the characters. And their characters were so interesting to watch.
Absolutely.
And none of them had to be.
Absolutely.
None of them had to be.
Yeah. No, that's true. The most complex thing about any of them is probably when you learn the details of Mel Gibson's character's shady past.
Yep.
You know?
With a great cameo from Dan Hedaya.
Yeah. Is it Hedaya?
I say Hedaya. Okay. But I'm willing to be wrong, but I say Hedaya.
Who, by the way, went to Tufts. Go Jumbos.
Really?
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
I feel better about Tufts now, not about him. Anytime I hear anything good about coming from Tufts, it makes me feel better about Tufts, not about the people, just for the record. Like Oliver Platt, I mean, like, good for Tufts, not good for Oliver Platt. Oliver Platt was going to be great no matter what.
Fair.
So Dan Hedaya also, I saw him in 2 movies last week because I watched, oh no, that's not true. I take it back. But I've been thinking about Joe versus the Volcano a lot last week.
Indeed.
And he had we talked about it on the podcast last week, and he had a great scene in that. And then I watched Ransom, and I was like,
Yes.
I got Dan Hedaya on the brain.
Indeed.
He's great, though. He drops an F-bomb and gets violent. It's amazing.
It's true.
Didn't expect it at all.
Um,
his brand of curmudgeonliness is usually cartoonish. It wasn't at all.
no, it's played straight.
This is a very grim movie.
Yes. Yeah. Surprisingly grim for a Ron Howard marketed to mass audiences, functionally boilerplate movie. It goes to pretty dark places.
This is a quintessential Ron Howard movie. It is a movie that the knock on Ron Howard that people have is Ron Howard doesn't make movies of a distinct style. You don't watch a movie and go, that's a Ron Howard movie.
Right.
And he does all sorts of different genres. But I'll say this. There is a distinction about a Ron Howard movie, which is that he makes what we would consider boilerplate movies, and they're always watchable. They're always interesting.
Yes.
It was grim, but I didn't feel like the movie, I didn't walk out going like,
No. Yeah, agreed.
He understands how to adjust his tone to tell the story he needs to tell.
It's like, you know what it's like?
He's the anti-Michael Bay.
In many, he's, right, but Michael Bay is the anti a bunch of people.
I did that just to remind you that you saw Bane and Gain yesterday, because you should not have done that.
I literally, if I could reach through a webcam and strangle people, I would be looking for a new co-host, because I would be killing you right now.
You don't know that by the time you learn how to do that, I would have learned how to block reach through strangles. I have a brown belt in cyber war.
Your logic is unassailable. Anyway, absolutely. Ron Howard, he totally knows what he's doing. And like, it's so unfortunate, because every time you try to compliment him because he doesn't have a distinctive style, as it were, it sounds like you're kind of insulting him. Like,
Yep.
All of his movies are really watchable. He really knows what he's doing. And you know what it's like? It's like, when a sports team gets a new coach, and they're like, we're gonna install a new system, and it's gonna take a couple of years, but I'm gonna get the kind of players that fit into my system. It's like, or you could coach the players you have.
Right.
Like maybe like Mike D'Antoni this year with the Lakers. I'm sorry for the sports talk. Like, Mike D'Antoni is known for an offensive system that literally was the worst possible offensive system for the personnel that the Lakers had. And they had a terrible season.
Yep.
So, and there are a bunch of my team, the Houston Rockets, Kevin McHale, who is not known as a great coach, has totally changed the kind of team that we are. And it isn't because he got new players necessarily. It's because he looked at the kind of players he had and he started coaching them to be a different kind of team.
Yes.
And that job of coaching, and in many, many ways, a director is a coach. Because you can say stuff about camera movements and framing of shot framing and things like that, but I mean, we're two actors, right? I mean, at least equally as important to us is how he treats his actors, and how and what I mean by that is not like, do they like him? It's what kind of performance does he bring out of them? And everything we've said, and we already said it, everything we said, how all of these characters were more complex than they needed to be, as we said earlier, that is a tribute to the actors, but it is also absolutely a tribute to Ron Howard.
But I'm wondering you're right, but I'm wondering how we deal with this, Sandy, because I think about, let's take Martin Scorsese, for example.
Yeah.
I don't want to take an auteur like Coen's or Tarantino because they write their own stuff. Scorsese sometimes co-writes scripts, but by and large he does not, okay? Mm-hmm. Scorsese, there's this thing with, no, but Scorsese has a distinctive thing. He really doesn't.
He really doesn't.
You can't call him a mafia filmmaker. He's made 3 or 4 of them for sure, but he's made 25 movies at this point.
Right.
He made Hugo.
Right.
He made Kundun.
Yeah.
He made Last Temptation of Christ.
Alice doesn't live here anymore. I mean,
right.
Yes.
He made which was, I think was like his second movie.
Yeah, yeah.
You could say, well, he makes violent movies. Well, he does, except when he makes movies like I just said, Hugo, Kundun.
Right.
Like,
except for all the ones that aren't violent that he made.
Right.
Yeah.
After Hours, King of Comedy.
Yeah.
You could say there's a darkness to it. And that would probably be the closest, and that would be where you could say that Hugo has a departure. But The Departed, by the way. There is a distinctiveness to him, but, well, no, that's my thing is there? He has different writers all the time. It's not always fast-paced editing. So I'm wondering, so why is it that he doesn't get the knock that Ron Howard gets? Is it just because he's just flat out better?
It might be that. It also might be, and I'm just using Scorsese as the example here, but there are directors who repeatedly work with the same actors. And so it seems like there's more of an auteur air about them. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Like, because
and Martin Scorsese used De Niro forever, and then he used Leonardo DiCaprio forever.
Yes. And so it's like,
okay, I'm hearing you.
Whereas Ron Howard doesn't, maybe people show up in more than one of his movies, but not
Clint Howard. Clint Howard does.
right, his brother. It's true. But you don't think of, as wonderful as, for example, Ed Harris is in Apollo 13. As wonderful, isn't Gary Sinise? Is Gary Sinise in Apollo 13? As wonderful as he is in Apollo 13, and as great as he is in Ransom, that's not enough, right? There's not enough of a through line. Whether it's by, the years between movies or they're not similar types of movies. Because even though they were separated by years and years, if you look at, for example, the actors that he reuses from Taxi Driver to Raging Bull to Goodfellas. Yep. They are very different movies, but they are sort of a piece thematically, or can be looked at that way. And Ron Howard doesn't really do that. So if you look at his filmography, I think it might, and I'm literally just thinking out loud here, I think it might be too fragmented for people to sort of latch on to that the way that... Listen,
yes.
That
so,
Scorsese...
So let me respond to this by just going through this so you can hear this, okay?
Yeah.
I'm going to start with Night Shift, which was his breakout movie.
Okay.
In 1982.
Yeah.
Okay. And by the way, he made Parenthood, just for the record.
Oh, that's a career.
Okay, you know how I feel about it. Okay.
Right there, yeah.
So here we go. Night Shift, Splash, Cocoon, Gung Ho, Willow, Parenthood, Backdraft, Far and Away, The Paper, Apollo 13, Ransom, Ed TV, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, A Beautiful Mind, The Missing, Cinderella Man, The Da Vinci Code, Frost Nixon, Angels and Demons, The Dilemma, and now he's got coming out Rush, which is a movie about F1 racing with Chris Hemsworth and one of the Germans from that German movie the guy who plays the German German sniper in Inglourious Bastards.
Nice.
Right. And Olivia Wilde, FYI.
Indeed.
BT Dubs, FYI, LOL, AWOL, ROFL. What I'm trying to say is that now there's some stinkers in there, and there's some great films in there, and there's some whatever in there.
Yeah.
There's no pattern there.
Right.
It's amazing, actually.
Yeah, it's true. That's true.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, but he's. Yeah, Frost Nixon was one of the best movies I saw that year.
I agree.
People talk about a departure for him, and I don't know how you pick a departure for Ron Howard.
Right. I agree with that.
I guess it would have to be super stylized. If anything, I would say his movies just aren't stylized.
Right.
Yeah. My wife is a painter, and one of the things she likes to do is paint things to look as real as possible. That's what she likes to do. And there's a part of her that's like, I wish I was more stylized, but that's not what I'm interested in painting.
Right.
And it's interesting. I know what she means. It's like, Van Gogh, or like, I love looking at Picasso. Like, I just love looking at it and trying to figure it out. So I get, like hyper real or just like very, trying to create a portrait of something has a little bit less of a flair to it.
Right.
But I mean, how do you argue with a list like that? That is a killer list.
Yeah.
As I was reading through it, I was like, I would go through that. I would do Project Howway next.
Right.
And and it would be fair because there's some crap in there, but it would be like that would be a fun filmography to sit through.
I agree. So. I did take a couple of exceptions to some of the directing. And I just want to mention them because it didn't impact my enjoyment of the movie to the point where I didn't like it. I really liked it.
Yeah.
But it's not a perfect movie. And the biggest thing, or the most noticeable thing, I think the climax, it just goes on way too long. Like it has like levels.
Yeah, it's as if Seth MacFarlane directed it.
Nice.
Like yes. It's like the chicken and like the thing from Family Guy where what's his name? I don't watch Family Guy, but where the main guy, I've seen that scene, fights the chicken.
Right.
And it goes on for like literally half the episode.
Yes.
That's what it's like.
Yes. And I say that, and there's not any particular part of it that I would cut out for being not as good as the rest of it. But it doesn't matter. It's just too long.
Yeah.
Also, the other thing, and this is sort of the most directorial thing that I have an issue with, there was some really weird sort of intermittent use of slow motion.
Yes.
And I am predisposed not to like slow motion. I just don't always think it's a great choice. So I might be harsher on it than someone else.
Akira Kurosawa created it, so I'm predisposed to love it.
Don't you dare. Don't you dare.
All right. A movie called Seven Samurai, no big deal. Go ahead.
You know what?
It's fine.
You know whose use of slow motion I've never
say whatever you want to say.
To? Akira Kurosawa.
Okay, fair enough. Go ahead. You may continue.
I hate you so much. And perhaps because he invented it, he has a defter touch with it. Yeah?
Okay.
So I mean that's it. I would say as much as we talk about what Ron Howard brought to the table, as much as we talk about what all the actors brought to the table, I do think, and this might be the last thing that I need to say about it, this movie doesn't work without Mel Gibson in that role. Certainly not to the level that which it did.
Yeah.
He is as charismatic as he ever is in this movie, and he is put through his paces emotionally. He exhibits pretty much every single emotion possible.
I don't know that he smiles ever. I don't know that he's ever happy. Maybe at the very, 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 very beginning. They do. Actually, you're right. I'm wrong. You're right. Because they show him smiling and laughing in the very beginning. Right. Just so you know that it's possible.
Right. Yes.
I want to say a little bit about Gary Sinise.
Do.
He intimidates me. My introduction. Seriously? Me? Say more? Okay. Why don't you just invite a vampire into your house?
Right. Twist your arm.
I think, I had a friend who'd say, twist my rubber arm.
Nice.
You want another drink? Oh, twist my rubber arm. My introduction to him was of Mice and Men, the movie.
Okay.
And I was a child. I saw it when it came out. And it crushed me, destroyed me, and I didn't know anything about Steinbeck, and I didn't know anything about, and then I found out that he and Malkovich together were part of this Steppenwolf theater company, which I didn't know anything about at the time, again.
Right.
And he just seemed so highfalutin.
Sure.
But not in a way that I thought not in a way that I thought that made him unwatchable, not like Masterpiece Theater or something.
Right.
In the way that I was like, he's an actor.
Right.
And so it's funny to me, for instance, that he's on CSI New York, or that he does I don't know, he's just so intense. He's one of the most intense guys ever. Like, I feel like when he laughs, you're like, oh, phew, he didn't stab me in the throat. And he freaked me out, and I didn't know him from much, and then he was in this movie, and I thought it was such a coup that they got him. I was like, wow. I remember when it came out, I was like, they got Gary Sinise for this.
Right.
And
totally.
He is so good in this movie.
Yeah.
So good in this movie and so scary. Just genuinely scary.
Yeah.
And it is, if you like if you, this is a weird thing to say if you like kidnap movies, but kidnapping movies as a genre have a lot going for them as far as in built-in suspense and the possibility for creativity. And what I mean by that is they can create ways that the kidnappers, because here's the thing, right? Here's a very simple question. You're going to steal someone's kid. First of all, how are you going to pull that off?
Right.
Secondly, once you've done it, how are you going to get money from this person and not get caught?
Right.
And I thought they did a really, really great job of making this as realistic as possible. The creativity was realistic, and he does a whole monologue about H.G. Wells and the Time Machine.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I want Elysium to be a good movie this summer, and I hope that it will be.
Okay.
Although I'm a little worried it's going to be a little too preachy, a little bit too Occupy Hollywood.
Okay.
But if it's not good, just go, instead of watching a 2-hour movie that if it's not good, if it doesn't work out, just go back and watch Ransom and listen to Gary Sinise's 2-minute monologue on the Time Machine, and it says everything you need it to say.
Yeah.
And it gives the kidnappers, it doesn't make them less evil.
Right.
But it gives his character so much meat. In fact, he might be the most developed character in the whole movie. The villain might be the most developed character in the whole movie.
I certainly wouldn't completely disagree with you.
Certainly wouldn't completely disagree.
You just said it, right?
I know.
So
I just said it because I just thought it. So you're right. But his character has a depth to him that I just find, and I will watch Gary Sinise in something.
Agreed.
I will like Gary Sinise. Yeah. So he's fascinating. It was a good movie. I really liked it. I've seen it a bunch of times. I saw it in the theater. Saw it when it came out on video. I don't own it, but it's one of those movies that I have just seen. When I say a bunch of times, realistically, beginning to end, I've probably seen it 4 or 5 times. But if it's on cable, I would watch bits and pieces of it.
15, 20 minutes here and there. Yeah.
Rene Russo is a rare actress, in my opinion, because she started as a model. And she is not a model turned actress. She is an actress who happened to be a model beforehand.
Yes.
And she has never had a role that has given her awards or even maybe put her in that stratosphere. And that's fine. This is boilerplate in the best sense of the word, Hollywood in the best sense of the word, but Hollywood suspense thriller. Plug in major names and faces here.
Yep. And
she's great at that. She's great at that.
Yeah.
That sounds like it could be criticism. It's not at all. You can trust her.
I mean, we saw her do the same thing. We saw her do the same thing in Lethal Weapon 3.
Yeah. But it's like, all right, do it like when she shows up as Odin's wife in Thor. Okay.
Right, yes. All right.
Like,
I'll watch you do
this. She shows up as Odin. I hope she's in Thor 2. I hope she's in Thor 2, Electric Boogaloo. Yeah. I don't know if she is, but she'll be great if she is.
Yeah.
So,
I agree with that.
Anyways. Is there something else we need to say about this movie? I mean, I feel like it's really good.
Yeah, I think we're done.
The last 2 movies we did a lot of complaining about. I have no complaints about this movie.
No, absolutely not.
What's coming up?
So next week we have Conspiracy Theory.
Never seen it.
I saw it right after it came out on video, and I haven't seen it since then. And so I'm very excited to see it again because I remember really liking it. And after Conspiracy Theory, we wrap up the Lethal Weapon series with the 4th best Lethal Weapon movie, Lethal Weapon 4. And the week after that...
Funny how that works.
Indeed. And the week after that, Payback.
We have something special in mind.
Yes, we do. A very special installment of Project Melway that week. And that's all I'm going to say about it for right now. Yeah? Shall we get out of here?
We only have 13 movies left.
We have at least 15 because of the 2 that we added. We don't need to have this conversation.
So we have 15. Okay, you're right. Sorry.
Yeah?
Sorry.
Yeah?
Okay. Sorry. I've been properly chastened.
Jason. This has been another installment of Project Melway brought to you by...
the Gibsonian Institute.
We are Second Breakfast. I am Andy Roth, and that is Phil Duvall. We'll see you again real soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.
The most important meal of the day, second breakfast.